Happy Wednesday. Hi. How's everybody doing? I am super excited to talk today about business decisions. If you've been in my space for any period of time, I'm a little bit of a broken record about business decisions, but today's content is same topic, different pieces. So this is not something that I've talked about before, but it is something that I use with almost all of my one-on-one clients at any given point in time. And it's something that it's just super important. So I wanted to come in and share. Let me just get this up here so that I can see you. If you're live, please say hi and let me know. Hi, Melinda. I just sent you a message, Melinda, a Facebook message. So check it out. And hello, Allison. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm super happy to see you. Lovely ladies here. If anybody else is on live, please let me know. So again, today is about business decisions. Just a couple of quick announcements. Next week's live, for those of you who don't know me, I go live every Wednesday in this space. Same time, same place. Hi, Tanisha. Every Wednesday, and next Wednesday is our very special monthly intuitive reading, where I channel intuitive guidance around your business questions specifically. So for those of you who can come live, please set it aside. I also created a event in the Facebook group, which I also do every month, and I love it because it's just a nice, easy reminder. But anyway, save the date. Next Wednesday is the reading. If you come live, please drop your questions in early. Please try to come right on time, because the sooner the better. I will get to as many questions as I can. And in the last 6 months or so, I have not been able to get to every single question on every single call. So come early, drop your question in the link, and I will get to you. And if you can't come early, or if you can't make it live, please listen to the replay, or please come and just catch whatever pieces you can. I always set the intention, and this happens all the time, that the messages and the answers that come through are intended for more than one person, more than just the person asking the question. So those of you who do come live will be paying it forward to the rest of the community. Whatever point in time you want to go listen to the reading, it's always the right time. It will serve you at whatever moment in time you listen to it, now or a year from now. I listen to them occasionally to get my own guidance, and I usually listen to several months back. So it's always there as a beautiful piece of guidance. It's one of my favorite things to do. So definitely join us next week live if you can, but don't feel that you've completely missed out. If you have to catch the replay, you get just as much out of it. Okay, so that's next week. I am now finishing out my coaching slots for the rest of the year. So if you're interested in one-on-one coaching with me, or even just considering it, I'm now booking actually I've got two slots left for this year, if you want to start between now and November. And I've even started booking. I've got clients booked into next year. So if you're interested, hop on a call with me sooner rather than later. You don't have to start immediately. I have spots now-ish and later, but I am doing that now. That's really top of mind for me. So I do have 2 slots open for this year. I might be able to open up a 3rd slot, and then we're looking at 2022. The other thing that I want to offer up is I do have a few offers. It has to be for the right person, but I have several clients that meet with me only on a monthly or a quarterly basis. So if you're looking for a one-on-one coach, but you don't quite have the time or the money to invest in something more intensive, like my coaching program, let me know that as well. And we can see if you might be a good fit for one of those offers. I have a few of those spots next year as well. Okay, jumping in now back to business decisions. I'm just going to make sure I'm still tracking with you guys. Okay, so business decisions, again, old topic. I talk about this all the time, but we're talking about new stuff today around business decisions. So the first thing I want to say is I think a lot of time, I know. Being able to make good business decisions as an owner or CEO of your own company is one of, if not the most important skill to learn, to practice, I kind of want to say master, but I think everyone is always working on this. It's one of my favorite things to help my one-on-one clients with, is to become a better decision maker, a better business decision maker. And I know I speak for many of you when I talk about myself, which is I've always been highly intuitive. I've let my intuition drive all of the big decisions of my life. I was able to make relatively quickly. And it's always the smaller decisions that I've had a harder time with, where I second guess myself. But when I started this business 4 years ago, it was like my intuition sat over there while I sat over here and created my business and made decisions. I really had a hard time trusting myself in business. I trusted myself and my intuition and all the other aspects of my life. I really had a flow with how to listen to my intuition. And then like the record stopped and I could not consistently, it's not to say that it was completely out, but I had a hard time in the beginning consistently tapping into my intuition from a business perspective. And I have clients who are highly intuitive who also come to me for coaching for that reason. We all need to help each other. And so I want to just sort of remind you that this is a skill and it's probably always, an ongoing practice. So when you're hard on yourself, when you tell yourself you're stuck in indecision, when you are mad at yourself for having not made a decision, the first thing I want to offer is go easy on yourself. And actually a lot of what I have to say today is very practical and tactical. And I'm going to give you detailed lists of things you can do to make better business decisions, very practical today. But if I can't be me and not talk about mindset and energy and alignment and how you approach things. And that's the first thing that you have to do, right? So giving yourself the grace and space to make decisions, to change your mind, to stick to a decision, wherever it is that you need to be is the right place for you for right this moment. Giving yourself the grace and space to really start practicing the next level, wherever you are, the next level of your decision-making skill set, and just know that it's a practice. So the other thing is, hate to tell you, especially all my little type A friends, decision-making is a messy process. We want to think that it's like this organized, logical, step-by-step process, A plus B equals C decided. And okay, there's moments and days where that's the case, but I think most business decisions, most big, important business decisions feel messy in the process, just like anything. I talk a lot about how I believe that entrepreneurship, I'm just going to pull up my phone so that I can see you guys because I'm not able to see anything. If you're live, please say hi. I lost my comments from earlier. So I talk about how entrepreneurship and creating a business and continuing, not just the creation part, but running a business is a creative process, right? So if I think about the beautiful Siglinde van Damme, who created this masterpiece behind me, probably she didn't have step A, step B, and step 1, 2, and 3 when she created this, right? It probably evolved from a blank canvas into what it is over multiple different, and it looked different along the way, right? In fact, Siglinde, if you're on live or if you catch the replay, post the reel here. There's a really beautiful reel that she did on Instagram where she created this, where she walked through the process that she goes through to create it. Anyway, so if you can allow yourself to be the artist as a decision maker, can you then give yourself a little more grace and space, right? We try to think that decisions are all rational mind, and I always get confused between which is right brain and left brain, but all rational mind and no creativity. And the truth is you actually need both parts of your brain to make a really good business decision. But the process feels messy. And so I like to look at it as a creative process, because then that makes me excited instead of, oh, I'm failing on making this a rational process. Okay, so let me know if this makes sense at all? Yeah, I'm still not catching any of your comments. I hope you guys are still there and I hope I'm still live. I had all these comments when I first got on and now I can't see you. Okay, I'm just going to keep talking. So number one, it's a creative process. Accept it. Don't judge yourself for it. Allow yourself to look at it, if it helps, to look at it as a creative process. It's a creative process. It's something that you're creating. Okay, I really don't know if I'm live, guys. I'm sorry if you're watching me and you're like, yeah, you're live. Keep talking. Oh. Sorry. I don't want to lose you guys. Okay, I'm here. Okay, now I see it. I swear to God, Facebook changes every single time. Okay, guys, let me know if you can still hear me. I'm sorry. Okay, so it's a creative process. Deal with it, right? Deal with it. But really and truly, that's the space where a lot of us need to let ourselves off the hook and remember that when you have a decision to make around your business, even especially a big one, thank you, Allison, that when you allow yourself the grace and space to just make the decision instead of on top of having this big decision to make, now you're judging yourself on top of it, it's a lot easier. So if you can give yourself the grace and space, take a minute, take a breath, recognize that you're making a big business decision, give yourself credit for that. And then go into your creative process, go into your messy process and let it be messy until it's not. Because what happens is as you piece out the mess, and we're going to talk about how to do that today, as you start to piece out the mess in different pieces, it becomes less messy, less overwhelming. And then it actually becomes more rational and it starts to get clearer. And it's like, oh, this is the decision. So I'm going to talk about that. Thank you, Tanisha. I'm going to talk about sort of how to jump into in a messy process, in a creative process, you can actually put some tactical, practical pieces to help you, strategies in place. You can put some tactical and practical strategies in place to help you make a decision. Okay. Before you begin, and you're acknowledging that it's a messy process, I highly, highly, highly recommend getting some help at some point in your decision-making process. Not for the purpose of validating your decision or confirming your decision, because I find that when I ask for help from certain people, they will then steer me in the wrong direction or in a different direction. What you want if you ask someone for help, ideally, this is ideal for another entrepreneur or a coach of yours or a colleague. I think it's ideal to get someone who actually knows something about what you're what you do and what you offer and really understands business, your business, but get some help. Get someone who's willing to be a sounding board and listen to your stream of consciousness, because they will start to identify the pieces where you're getting wrapped around. So I definitely highly recommend getting somebody to help you at some point in the process. But again, it's for the decision-making process, to support you in the decision-making process, not someone to make the decision, to tell you you're right, all that stuff, to help you make your own decision. That's part of what I do, but not everybody can hire me, right? So great, get a coach, get a colleague, get someone to support you. Again, ideally, if they really understand entrepreneurship. Number one, I find so many of my clients will say, as they're talking about, well, I haven't decided if I'm going to do this or this, or I don't know what to do about that. So often the first words out of their mouth within the first 2 sentences, the phrase, I don't know, pops out about 19 times. I want to correct that a little bit, because I think the truth is you might not know the total end result decision. There's stuff in there from here to there that you do know. So couple examples. One, I think there's a lot of times that we make a decision and we're trying to get to the end result where we don't actually need to know the end result, even if we say we don't know. we need to know what we need to know now. So I'm going to give you an example. I think I used this example the other day because I think it's helpful, and it's something that other people who are service providers or coaches will understand, but insert your own example for your own business. So I offer two major programs. One is one-on-one coaching, and the other is a group coaching program. My group coaching program I run about once a year. And earlier this year, I made a decision, but earlier this year, I was trying to decide. I was in a process of deciding, right? I didn't not know. I was in the process of deciding whether I would run that group program in the first quarter of 2022, because I'm starting to set up my coaching, my one-on-one coaching for 2022. And I wanted to create space for that group or create space for the one-on-ones. And I needed to make that decision pretty soon. I don't have to decide if I'm going to make that, if I'm going to run it at all next year. I only have to decide right now, or I only wanted to decide in that moment, whether or not to run it as early as the first quarter. I decided not to. For those of you who know my Evolve program, it probably will happen in 2022, but right now it's not going to happen until at least the second quarter at the earliest. Okay, so that was my decision, right? But can you hear how I described that? I didn't need to know, oh God, I got to decide, like, am I going to run Evolve in 2022? Technically, I still don't know the answer to that question. But that's not actually true, right? So I could present this to my coach or present this to a friend or present this to a colleague and say, I don't know if I'm going to run it. But the truth is, I don't need to know if I'm going to run it between now and over a year from now. I could even start it in October and still run it next year. So that would be starting it in a year. I don't need to know that right now. And it's not even about knowing. I don't need to decide that right now, right? So pay attention to where you get wrapped around the axle of thinking that you have to decide something that's like end result, right? And I'm going to call this end result, but put it into the context of whatever your circumstances are. If the end result is when am I going to run Evolve next? I haven't decided that yet, but I don't need to decide that yet. That's a 2022 decision for my business. It would be silly for me to try to decide that right now based on information that I don't yet have. It's not appropriate for me to make that decision right now. So I put a little note in my file for the beginning of next year, and I reconsider, when do I even need to make this decision, right? So number one, make sure that the I don't know piece is true, because 9 times out of 10, I'll poke at it and say, is that really true? I doubt that's actually true. So notice when you're trying to make a series of decisions or a bigger decision or an end result decision, when actually that's not relevant right now, you just need to make the now decision. And then the other piece that I like to start with is start with what you do know. I can't imagine, I really can't imagine that you would get to a point in your business journey that a question arises. Will I run Evolve next year? When will I run Evolve next? Will I continue to offer a group coaching program? Or who is my ideal client? Or how will I grow my team? Okay, all these things. I can't imagine, guys, that a question would arise where you literally knew nothing about it, because for it even to come into your awareness, you probably already know something, because you probably made some decisions to get to that point, or you had some dreams that you had created in your mind, goals and things that you wanted to do. So I often challenge my clients, and I know this is really annoying sometimes, when they say, I don't know, to say, well, hold on a minute. What do you know about this decision? Because even if you know what you don't want to do, that is still a piece of the decision-making process. So what do you know? I don't know what I do want to do, but I know what I don't want to do, right? So when I think back to when I was still in corporate and I was very clear that I wanted out of corporate, I was very clear that I wanted a different career. I wanted to do work that felt really meaningful to my soul. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what work I wanted to do. So and I spent a lot of time in that space, right? So this is why I help my clients with this, right? Because I can see that I don't know crap from a mile away. I lived it. We all live it. It's not like I'm finished learning this. But I spent years telling myself I didn't know. Oh, I don't know what I want to do. I know I want to leave corporate. But the truth was, I knew I wanted to leave corporate. I knew I wanted to do something meaningful. I knew I really wasn't interested in anything related to what I used to do, which is kind of funny because I still do. But there are pieces that you do know. So the first question I want you to ask yourself, getting tactical if you're taking notes here, is what do I know? Capital D, capital O. What do I know? Because the truth is you do know something, even if what you know is what you don't want, right? And sometimes you can ask yourself smaller questions to help you with this, what I do know, like, how do I want to feel when I've made this decision? How will this, and it sort of depends on the decision, but how will what do I want to feel as a result of this decision? Or what do I want a client to feel as a result of this decision? Or what do I want the impact to my business or to my audience or to my clients to be? So even if you don't know, I don't know if I'm going to run Evolve next year. Okay, that's not true. The truth is, I've made the right decision at this point in time for the time frame that we're in. But what do I know? Well, I don't know when I'm going to run it again, but I do know that it's not time to run it right now. So sometimes what you don't want can become what you do know. Maybe that's a quote. What you don't want can be what you do know. Okay, let me know if this is making sense. Thank you for everybody who's validating that you can see and hear me. The tech went off a little bit. Okay, so start with what you do know. The other thing that I like to do is to start removing reality from the thought process. And hear me out before you think that I'm just gone into my woo-woo planet. Because what happens so often is, and I'm going to talk about this in several different places, but we often take, Tanisha's taking notes, I love it. But we often merge and tangle up the what and the how. And the how becomes a limitation. So let's say, for example, I had a good example. Okay, let's say I've decided to run my Evolve program, but I need to decide now what changes I'm going to make to the program before I offer it, because by that point it will have been a year since I run it minimum, and I've evolved and I have new messages and new things. What do I want to change? And then how do I want to deliver that changed program? Right? Those are actually two different decisions. I shouldn't be deciding the how until I've decided the what. There's no reason to figure out how to deliver my revised group coaching program until I know what is revised. And if it still fits like last time, or, oh, sorry, I knocked the table, or if it should be delivered differently, right? When you untangle the how, when you untangle the how, that's an example of removing reality from the situation. Because what happens is, well, I feel like I kind of want to change module 1. There's some things in there that I've noticed in my clients since I last ran this program. I've noticed it in my one-on-one clients, and I really want to add a whole section to module 1. So instead of it being 3 weeks long, I want it to be 4, instead of it being 3 calls, I want it to be 4 calls. I just have more to say on the topic, and I think it'll really round out the experience of module 1, right? But if I'm not thinking about it that way, and I'm going, but then how many calls does that mean that they're going to have in the total? And will everybody be able, and then should I still have it all be done in the first month? So should all of module 1 be delivered in the first month, or should some of it be pre-recorded and some of it be in a live call? And how should I execute, right? I'm getting into the how, I'm getting into the execution while I'm still deciding the what it is that I'm executing. untangle those. It will pull you out. First off, it just makes it harder to make the decision because you think through like 90 different scenarios instead of one or two at a time. But the other piece with the how becomes a limitation for so many people. So many people. Well, I don't know how to deliver it. I don't have a team big enough for that. I don't have that. So I can't do that. Okay. So I got it. Like, you're screwing with your beautiful creative process of what do I want to create by inserting reality into what I think is possible and how I know to do stuff now. I feel like that's important to repeat. And I don't know exactly how I said it, but do not let reality, just like when you're creating a business or you're dreaming something, right? We don't like go into like, well, what I know is possible is this. So if I extrapolate from there, right, it would probably, my life can do this. I can tell you, I know most of you would say the same. My life is nothing like I thought it would be, or even like I dreamed it would be. It's 10 times better. So for me to have gone back in time, if I go back in time to my old self and say like, insert more reality of what you know is possible, it's not helpful in that process. You do have to insert reality and how and practical and make it executable, but not always at the beginning phase of a process, especially because if you agree with me that this is all based on the fact that decision-making is a messy process, or I prefer creative process, you can't start with the how. And so many of us get wrapped around the axle with the how. So remove the how from the beginning of the process. How goes at the end of the process when you already know what you want to do, then you figure out how to execute it. Okay. But also remove reality. I like to remove reality. Give yourself a magic wand. Give yourself the space to dream really, really big, pie in the sky. And then once you've really decided what it is that you want to create, or in this example I was using, once I'm really clear on how all the content that I want to revise and how, then I can figure out how to put it together, how many people in my group, how do I want to deliver it? Is it still I think it's a 12-week program. Is it still a 12-week program? Is it longer? Is it shorter? Is it delivered differently? Those are all decisions there is no reason to make right now. I'm in the what. So start with what you do know. Remove reality and untangle. And one of the ways that you can remove reality is to untangle the what from the how. Most of the time, the what is the first part of the decision. So basically, you're removing limitations. Now you're giving yourself the space to dream big. But again, just because it's a creative process, just because you have lots of things to think about doesn't mean that it has to be messy. And this is where I'm here to help you, all my little type A people, and even actually, I'm here to help everybody, because my type B people who want to stay in the creative space get lost in the indecision, and they don't even know what decision they're working on because they're just dreaming, right? I'm a Pisces. I am like I can spend my whole day there if I want to, but then I really want to execute. I want to serve my clients. And these things are things that have worked for me and that have worked for my clients. So this is what I'm sharing. So so step one is, if it seems messy, no, it's messy. No, it's a creative process. We talked about all that. Get some help with your process. Number two, start with what you do know. Number three, remove reality, such as separating the what from the how. And then number four is what we're going to talk about the second half of this time. Project manage. Oh, the type B of me hates this. Project manage your decision. Project manager decision. I'm going to tell you what that means. I spent a little bit of time in corporate as a project manager because I wore several different hats when I was running a couple of big change management projects in these companies that I consulted to. And for a little while at a certain employer, I was also required to not just be in charge of the change piece of a project. I had to be the project manager, which, by the way, I hated. But I learned a lot. So Number one, write it down. This is so not earth-shattering information, but how many decisions are you even working on right now? Write it down. So I like to have a list of decisions to be made. And then I talk about this all the time. Put things on the back burner. So things that you've decided, I'm going to do this later, or I'm not going to do this right now, that you don't want to forget. Have a back burner list of projects, ideas, things you want to do. Putting something on a back burner list is by itself a decision. So those of you that think you're not making decisions all day long, you are. Here's an example of how you can keep making good business decisions and give yourself that evidence of being a good decision maker. So I back burnered my Evolve decision. I made one decision. I'm not going to run it the rest of this year, and I'm not going to run it the first quarter of 2022. I've back burnered my Evolve decision. No reason to even think about it until probably January of next year. Done. Decision made. Moving on. Close the window. Close the window. Close the window. Close the window. Right? Nothing wrong with having multiple windows open on your computer, but if your brain is holding multiple windows open, it's going to wear you out. So as you project manage your decision, start by writing it down. Write down all the decisions you need to make, because that's the other thing. When you don't write stuff down, or you don't sort of disposition them in some way, shape, or form, or triage them in some way, shape, or form, your brain holds them, right? Have you ever like continued a thought process through while you were sleeping, or like woken up and realized that for the last hour you've been like trying to organize your schedule, right? Give your brain a chance to close some windows and to check some things off. So writing down the decisions you need to make in general, really, really helpful, because then you don't forget stuff. Half the time you can write those decisions down. I guarantee you've got at least 10, even if they're just dream things of like, I want to one day do this. I still think that's a decision to be made. And then deciding which ones go on the back burner and which ones are for now. That's a decision right there. Now you've just made your life so much easier, because you're only looking at, let's pretend, 5 decisions right now, or 3, right? So use your back burner list. I always talk about the back burner list for projects and ideas, because as entrepreneurs, most of the time our brains are on like creative, what's the word? Not invention. Oh my God, what is the word? Anyway, it'll come to me. Anyway, creating new idea, innovation, new ideas, right? I so often my clients will be like, I don't know what to do with all these. Just write them down, throw them on the back burner list. You've got all these ideas, you've got all these decisions, go back burner. If you want, put them on the back burner list with a date so that you don't forget to come back to them, right? Like my Evolve decision comes back, I come back to in January to reconsider, reevaluate, not reconsider, reevaluate. So write it down, move stuff to the back burner so that what you're focused on is actually the decisions that matter right now. This gets back to running your business based on priorities, which is another topic for another day. Okay. And then notice, particularly if I'm going to talk specifically about a big business decision right now. Most of the time, a big business decision has multiple small decisions underneath it. And we get so stuck in the big that we can't get to the little ones. So for example, back to my example about Evolve. When am I going to run Evolve again? Well, that's the big decision. Okay. That's unimportant. The important timely decision was the one underneath that, which is, am I going to run it soon enough that I need to start planning for my launch? No. Okay, good. Don't need to plan a launch, not ready to do it. I would rather focus on my one-on-ones and build out my team to support me in my next launch, which is what I've decided. Okay, so Can you break it down? That will also help you take those decisions and back burner them or give them a proper date and realize what's actually left to decide. Again, you're clearing out some of this. There's so many pieces and elements. There's a lot of stuff though that you can clear out. And then with what's left, start to see, okay, because sometimes, again, from a project management perspective, maybe you have 4 or 5 decisions to make around this Evolve program. I have probably 12 decisions to make around Evolve once I start to go with it again. But decide what's first, second, and third, so that anytime you get this thought of like, oh shit, how am I going to handle blah, blah, blah? You know what? That's not for today. I'm going to write it down, stick it on the back burner list. Maybe all my Evolve decisions and thoughts go into one, list of back burner stuff. Yes, exactly, Tanisha. You feel like you're going to forget. So your brain keeps the window open, right? Your brain keeps holding it, even though it'll let it go the minute you just write it down. And you write it down in a place, not on a napkin. Write it down in a place where you'll be able to get back to it. And then your brain can let it go and get back to focusing on what's really important. So again, some decisions will have an order to them, particularly the bigger ones. So when is important? What is going to change, right? So if I decide, okay, I think I could be ready to launch this program again, then I need to give myself time to go back to look at the content and say, because I've done this periodically, but I've never just sat down ready to deliver it again, to say, is this still what I want to teach, or is it going to evolve again into its next iteration? Of course, it's going to evolve into its next iteration. I've already decided that. Great. I already decided that. Check. How is it going to evolve? Well, I really want to sit with some of the themes I've been tracking with my one-on-one clients. I want to go back to my notes from last year to the pieces that people really seem to resonate with, and the pieces that people in my program had a harder time with, and decide, like, did they have a harder time because we should have spent more time on it, or I should have approached it differently, or did they have a hard time with it because maybe it's not as important as the other stuff, right? So I can start to look at those things. Those are other decisions to make. Then once I figure out generally what the new program is going to look like, I can decide what it means logistically. How many times are we going to meet? How am I going to deliver it? Is it going to be all live like I did before, or will it be part live and part pre-recorded? How many people feels like too many people? What's my max number of people? Therefore, how much should I charge? How long do I want to run it for? How much time am I going to invest in? How is this going to all, and then later we get to like, how do you actually run the launch, and how does my team do their pieces, right? But all of those are decisions to make. I don't have to worry about like what role my VA is going to play in my next launch, because there's like 19 things to do before then, right? So breaking it down, finding an order, particularly for bigger decisions, is really important. Because some will flow out of the other. So it's like you only need to make 1 or 2. And then once you make those 2, the next decisions will be made or will be easier to make at that point, once you have the right information. And then the other thing I love to do is, this is where the project manager in me, she's still here. So often we judge ourselves, and this can be, you guys can take this tip for tracking tasks that you're doing, for demonstrating yourself, showing your progress, right? When you've got your to-do list, this is a little bit of a mindset hack. And I find it to be so helpful and freeing, because I can't tell you how many times I'll look at my to-do list and I'll be like, I haven't started any of this shit. Why didn't I start it? What was I doing today? Oh my God, I can't believe, right? I'm so inefficient. Right? None of that is actually true. And what are you saying to yourself, right? When you look at an undone to-do list, I really like to take, whether it's a task or a series of decisions, when you find yourself judging yourself for not being productive or not, having it move as quickly as you can. One of my favorite things to do is, well, there's 2 things. One, what's been decided? For as much as, like I said, you maybe tell yourself you don't know, but you do know. So what do you know? What has been decided? Sometimes we need a little traction and a little like pat on the back to be like, good job, you checked off your first two, tasks, right? It's not gaming yourself. It's not fake. It's actually pointing out reality. My mother is a list freak, and she will, this doesn't do it for me, but it really does it for her. She will go to her list and actually write something down that she just did 5 seconds ago, just so she can check it off and feel good about herself. Okay. I know a lot of you do that. Like, that's not gaming yourself. That's working with what feeds you, what motivates you, giving yourself a reminder of the traction you've actually made outside of your to-do list, or what built up to create your to-do list, so that you can stop judging yourself and get back to business, right? Whatever it takes. So one of the things I like to do, kind of like that, is I will take a decision or a series of decisions or a series of tasks in a project, and I will mark it one of these 3 things. Every single task or decision can be one of these 3 like statuses. Complete. Okay. Most things are not complete. Not started, or in progress. I'm going to say it in the actual order. Not started. So, okay, not started. Haven't even started thinking about this decision. Haven't collected any information I need to make this decision. Haven't started this project. Haven't started this task. Haven't even opened up the email related to this task, right? Not started. In progress, which the secret tip is most things can be considered in progress or in process, whichever one you like, or complete. Okay, so we know complete. We know not started. I'm going to go back to my Evolve example. Deciding how to deliver the program. Not started. I can put a date on that. Don't need to start it. Not time to start it. Moving on. Deciding what will change in the content of the program. Actually, it's in progress. I started it. It's in progress, but it doesn't really need to be even looked at until I decide to run it again. Okay, moving on. So often, I'm trying to think of another example. Okay, when will I run Evolve again? You could argue that's either not started or it's in progress, right? Because I've made a smaller decision related to that. Again, you got to play with this, how you want to use it. But oftentimes my clients are like, well, I haven't started this and I haven't decided that, and I don't know this, and I don't know how to decide this, right? Start with what you do know, start with what you need to know now, then go to what you need to know later, what you need to decide later. When you are telling yourself that you haven't started something, or when you're telling yourself you haven't done enough, go back and look at your tasks, go back and look at the decisions you've already made. And if you need to move something from not started to in process because you spent 5 minutes worrying about it and moving it onto a list, then I consider that in process, right? So again, decide your own mind hack. I love that, because once I can just realize and give myself credit for having started it, or if maybe I look at it and I'm like, yeah, this is going to be a really big decision. I'm just going to take a bite-sized chunk today and just go into my Google Drive and look at the material that I have available and just kind of remind myself what's there. And then I'm going to call that started, because I started my brain on it. I still don't think that it's ideal to have your brain on a whole bunch of things at once. That's for another day. Focus, prioritize. But when you're overwhelmed by a decision or a series of decisions, and oftentimes when you're overwhelmed by a decision, it's because you need to make it into a series of decisions, right? If you have a big project, you don't just go, I hope I manage the whole project. You make a list of tasks and you check them off as you go. Decisions are actually not all that much different. And then you can project manage your decisions. And then won't feel messy, but it's still messy. It's still creative. It's not a linear process. It's not a formula. There's not a lot of stuff in business that is, guys. And if that's what you're looking for, entrepreneurship is not your home. And it's also a beautiful place to learn, and you can do whatever you want. And if you really prefer structure and formulas, here's a way to take that like messy, creative blah of decision making and start to create some structure around it. And then you get the traction. Then you get the motivation. Oh, well, look, I made that decision. Now I could probably sit down and make this one. Okay, let me know what questions you have. I'm going to wrap up here in just a minute. I hope this makes sense. I hope it's helpful. And I want to add one other thing that I have alluded to across this conversation, but I want to sort of point it back out again. And I always get this wrong, so I actually looked it up today because I wanted to remember how to say it right. There is a Buddhist parable that talks about when you get shot, like if you were to get shot with an arrow, that would be bad, right? But if we then choose to react to being shot with an arrow, if we choose to react to it by getting mad at ourselves for the fact that we got in the way of the arrow, or getting into an argument with the person who shot us because they shouldn't have shot us, we're fighting against reality, right? And there's a neuropsychologist called Rick Hanson, and he calls them darts instead of arrows, but it's all related to the same idea, which is, he says, the unavoidable pains of life are the first arrow, right? The decision is the first arrow. The next step in your business, whatever it is, the mindset issue is the first arrow. It's unavoidable. It's part of life. Our jobs as humans and entrepreneurs and souls is to grow and evolve and to get better at making decisions or dealing with circumstances, blah, 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 right? You're going to have the first arrow, plus or minus, right? So the unavoidable, what does he call them? Pains of life are the first arrow. But we add insult to injury when we react to that first arrow, and that reaction is the second arrow or the second dart, right? So decisions are going to be a little bit messy, or a creative process, which I think is more accurate, but it's not always a formulaic, linear, step-by-step way to get to the answer or the final decision. But when you're judging yourself around your decision-making process, or you decide that you have an inability to make decisions, or you decide not to trust yourself, or you decide that you are not good at making decisions, whatever it is that you're telling yourself, it's the second arrow. So then you've got two arrows to deal with. And that second arrow just freaking gets in your way and slows you down from dealing with the arrow that you need to like go to the hospital, right? Not to say that like a decision is as dramatic as that, but hopefully you understand my gist. And I want to say, as a mindset coach, this isn't to say we throw mindset out the window, but it is to say, let's piece things out and call a spade and look at the truth of the situation. Because if you're telling yourself you don't know, for example, and the truth is you do know a lot, you're just in a decision-making process, that doesn't mean you don't know. It just means you're in progress. You're in the process of making a decision. There's absolutely no judgment. You should be in the process of making a decision, right? There's no shoulds about it. To just bring yourself back to reality. And if there's a true mindset issue, if you truly have something that's more deeply ingrained than just that, right? That you're just used, because oftentimes it's just we're in the habit. We're used to saying we don't know and thinking we don't know and not looking at the truth of the situation. So part of what I'm talking about today is I'm just trying to shift your perspective, which will relieve yourself from a mindset perspective and shift your mindset. But if you have a true mindset issue around decision making, I'm not trying to discount that or ask you to, avoid it. I am the last person to sweep things under the rug. I'm the one that peers under there and is like, did you see this? I think there's something here to talk about, right? I love doing that work with my clients, but it's important to just know what you're dealing with, right? So if you're trying to make a decision and you're in the way, second arrow, of that decision, you're not making it any easier on yourself. And that's when it's a good idea to get a coach, to get a confidant, to get a colleague, to get somebody to help you either with the mindset piece and or the decision piece. Again, that was just my little caveat because I'm a huge mindset person. I am a mindset coach. I'm a business coach. But it is important to separate out sometimes what's the truth of the situation. Just like when you want to make a decision, hold off on the how, hold off on the execution, hold off on how's this going to happen, and stay focused on what the decision is first, then decide how to implement it, right? Hold off on the self-judgment, or find ways to hold off on the self-judgment. Find ways to look at the situation differently so that you can empower yourself to tap into your knowing, to go through your own decision-making process, however nonlinear, messy, creative, unstructured it might be, to get to the proper answer for your business. All right, my loves, thank you so much for joining me. A couple of announcements that I made early on. I am doing the intuitive business reading next week at this time. So mark your calendars, come live if you can. And I still have 2 coaching spots open if you want to start coaching with me this year. And I am open also to, I'm setting up filling slots now for next year. I already have a few slots filled for next year. So if you're interested in coaching in any capacity, hop on a free call with me. No pressure, no forcing. But I do want to let you know that I'm starting to book out now. So if you're kind of sort of thinking about it, it's worth hopping on a call now and you can decide closer to time. I'm so excited for next week. Yes, Tanisha, I'm sending you love, my dear. When it's the time is right, when the time is right. I do believe that. Good. So hop on a discovery call. I'll pop the link in here if you're interested. Again, it can be purely, what's the word? Pure discovery, right? You don't have to decide now, but to just understand what it might look like to work together. That might help you decide if you want one of the slots now or if you want one of the slots in the new year. And I'm looking forward to talking with everybody. Again, next week is the intuitive reading. I hope you have a great week. Make good decisions. Project manage yourselves. Don't get thrown by the second arrow. It doesn't mean anything about your decision-making skills. You're just getting in your own way. Let me know how I can help you make better decisions. And I'll see you next week. Mwah.